All right, it is 3 o'clock, so we will be getting started. I know some folks will continue to trickle in, so as you do, welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you all so much for joining us for our first virtual demo day. It's wonderful to see all of your support coming out when coming out means coming to your computer. So thank you, and I'm really excited to share with you what this cohort has put together. My name's Haley Medved-Kendrick. I'm the director of Innovate Birmingham. And at Innovate Birmingham, what we do is really try to meet local demand for tech talent by providing training pathways for learners to advance their careers. We do that in a couple different ways. We have scholarships for fast track and degree programs at local training providers, and we have full-time immersive boot camps that we're here to celebrate today, and you will see in action. Throughout each of our programs on all these different levels, we work really closely with local employer partners. They're really at the center of what we do, and we can't make what you see here today happen without them. So I've seen a couple employer partners already join the call. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your support today and the many days before this when you've come out and contributed through lunch and learns or interviews or career fairs. We really appreciate it. As I'm sure all of you have guessed, this cohort has been through quite a unique challenge, not just having to learn a whole new skill set in 14 weeks, no big deal, but also doing that while managing a transition to remote work and remote learning in the middle of it with very little notice. So it's quite remarkable what they were able to come up with, what you'll see here shortly, and really doing learning remotely in addition to working remotely, which can be very different challenges. As you'll see, they rose to the occasion. They've blown me away with what they put together, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about. In addition to switching to the virtual learning platform in the middle of the program, we're doing a little something here for demo day with our virtual demo day. One of those changes that we have is having judges here to evaluate each group and select a winner for the best presentation. So we have a panel of distinguished judges here with us this evening: Amanda Rainey, Kareem Boudouani, Oz Dusoleil, and Todd Miranda. And I'm going to pass it off to our judges for a moment to introduce themselves. Amanda, do you want to get started?
Sure thing. I'm really happy to be a part of this. This kind of encompasses two passions of mine. I'm in finance and have been since 2006, and also majored in it in school. So love some data, and also married a web developer. So I have fallen in love with that over the years. And one of the things I enjoy doing as well is, as people are using their knowledge about these things to develop their startups and things like that, I love to mentor people with my business experience. And that's it. I'm excited to see what you guys have done.
Thank you. Kareem? Are you here with us? Let's jump to Oz.
Hello, I'm excited to be here. Oz Dusoleil here. I'm an Excel MVP recognized by Microsoft for the past 5 years, and I've been working with data for about 20 years, and I do a lot of data cleansing. So data quality is a big deal for me, because your analysis does not mean anything if the data is crap. So there you go, and I'm looking to see what you all have done.
Great, thank you, Oz. Diva, Kareem is an attendee. Could you promote him to a panelist, please, if you haven't already? Todd, do you want to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Todd Miranda. I've been involved in the technology world for 30, 40 years, so I've been doing this a long time. I was awarded 10 years, awarded a Microsoft MVP as for development tools and web platform. So I've done that quite a bit. I've spent a lot of time in the security world. I'm a certified ethical hacker, so try to focus on kind of the white hat side of the world, trying to break systems in order to fix them. So really, really happy to be here. I really enjoy training and mentoring, really enjoy this type of thing. I like to see how folks take technology, learn technology, and then apply that education moving forward to not only grow themselves in their career, but also to build some pretty great things. So I've been looking through your submittals, all right, online, your GitHub code. So I'm excited to see your presentations today. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And Kareem, I see you're with us now. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so definitely I'm going to start with a PSA. Cover your face, your nose and mouth when you're going to be around people. I'm not around people right now, but just want to make sure that I get that out there. Wanted to start by congratulating all the teams and also the organizing staff. I think that in the last 2 months, 3 months, the world has changed considerably. And I think you have responded in the most appropriate way. I mean, I think you have exceeded all expectations. So I'm even more excited. I think echoing the other judges' sentiments, I think we are all very excited to be here, to see your presentations. But on a personal note, I mean, I'm just really pleased, really amazed with the way you have responded to this. There is, the word pivot has become a cliche, but you guys have done a phenomenal job. So I'm really excited. Can't wait. So let's get started.
Great. Thank you so much to all of our judges. A few logistics before we get started so the audience has a little heads up. All the teams in each class will present their projects before the judges ask questions. So there'll be one round of questions after each class, 2 total. And at the conclusion of both classes' presentations, the judges will sneak away to their own deliberation room, and then they will come back to us and share their selections, and we will announce them at the end of the call. So this afternoon, you'll be seeing presentations from 2 different boot camp classes. We're fortunate to have excellent local industry partners as curriculum providers for each of these classes, and those are Think Data Solutions and Covalence. Robin Hunt is the founder and partner of Think Data Solutions and has been a really incredible partner of ours since we began working together a little over a year ago. I'm going to turn it over to Robin now to introduce our data analytics course and the projects. Robin?
Thanks. I get emotional on demo day, so bear with me. I'm going to share my screen. And Haley, can you confirm that you can hear me and you can see just a white screen?
Confirmed.
Thank you. We're using one slide deck for today's presentation, and in the event we experience any technical difficulties, I have Adrian Drain and Taylor Abney, who are my teaching assistants, on standby and ready to jump in at any point and take over. I hope that does not happen, but in the event that it does, just know we are prepared to make that transition and make it quickly. I just want to say a special thank you to Adrian and Taylor. Without them, this would not have been possible to convert to remote. I'm proud to graduate the 4th cohort with Adrian as my teaching assistant and our first with Taylor Abney. And also Reggie White, who jumps in whenever we need him for whatever we need him for. Our candidates start their paths to their career in tech with skill development on day 1. And they learn pretty quickly that those skills development will never stop. In designing the data curriculum, we wanted every cohort to have the ability to develop a class research project. This allows candidates to truly experience a data research project from the ground up. They work as a team to decide what they want to study. They develop all the initial questions. They convert those questions into survey-related questions with responses. They publish that study through all our social channels. And for all of you who filled out this study, we thank you and appreciate your support. They also figure out pretty quickly that no one ever sees all the hours of work that goes into cleaning, mining, and analyzing. And not only to determine their findings, They have to do a lot of cleaning and analyzing to produce a result that's digestible to all audiences who might see it. They learn tools like Excel and SQL and skills like data mining and querying. Today, they're not only using those Power Query skills and those data mining skills, they're also using tools like Power BI Desktop and Tableau Public. You'll see a battery of skills in these presentations, from the development of talking points, teamwork, and even public speaking. Again, what you won't see is the hours and hours they've poured into this project. Now it's time to discuss the subject of our study, inequality. We wanted to measure not only the sentiments on inequality, but also if we could find inequality within our sample. Remember, questions were developed by Cohort 10, our most diverse cohort yet, in all categories of age, race, and gender. There is way more information than what we could cover in the time that we have. We asked people their level of agreement on 3 inequality questions, and in some cases, they provided their feedback. These are some of the actual responses with people who disagree that inequality exists in the different areas. And in some cases, as many agreed as disagreed, and they shared their feedback as well. Let me introduce our teams who have not only survived moving to remote boot camps, but also editing a slide deck with over 100 slides with 20 different unique perspectives. And I cannot be more proud of what they're going to show you today. Parker, Claudia, Brian, and Aaron will give us an overview of who took our survey by demographics. Joe, Jeff, Fatima, Jared, and Ian will focus on education levels and various salary and promotion information of our respondents. Our inequality research teams were broken into 3 separate teams. Our first team, Joseph, Violetta, and Bianca, will discuss findings on wage and promotion inequality in industry. Our second team, Michelle and Wade, will discuss seniority levels, promotion, and the inequality questions. And our third and final presenting team, Sam and Scott, will address inequality questions with demographics and education. I'd also like to specifically acknowledge our review team, Steve, Sheldon, and Eric, who have focused on keeping all the slides together, ensuring accuracy and consistency. As you can imagine, that is a great effort to keep 20 people and 20 different perspectives together. This allowed our participants who are presenting to actually focus on their talking points and their visuals, knowing that they had a team behind them to check their accuracy. It not only takes a critical eye, but thoughtfulness and an immense amount of patience, so we thank you. Okay, that's enough from me. Let's get started.
Good afternoon. My name is Claudia Powell, and I'm a candidate with the Innovate Birmingham's Data Analytic Bootcamp. My fellow candidates in Cohort 10 developed a wage comparison survey to learn real-world skills and data analysis, and we'd like to share our findings with you. We have 315 total valid responses from 20 states and Washington, D.C. A valid response provided an authentic workplace postal code and answered the 3 inequality questions. Is there inequality in wage based on age? Is there inequality in wage based on race or ethnicity? And is there inequality in wage based on gender? 74% of our responses were from Alabama and 72% of those in Jefferson County. Now Brian will share some information about our respondents.
Thank you, Claudia. My name is Brian Boyd, and I will be presenting the gender, age, race, and education portion of the demographics. Let's take a look at who took our survey. We had a heavy female-to-male ratio with nearly twice as many female-to-male respondents. Over 41% of those females belonged to the 25 to 34 age range, while males had a higher percentage than females in the age ranges 35 to 44 and up. The race ethnicity of our respondents comes next. White, Black, African American, and Hispanic Latino made up 95% of our total, with the majority of our respondents being white, with a little over 66%. To give some race to gender info, there were exactly 3 times as many Black African American females than males. There were over twice as many Hispanic Latino females than males, and there were about 1.6 times as many white females than males. Lastly, for education, a total of 72% of our respondents had some sort of degree, with a bachelor's degree making up almost half of those. They go on to answer to a few types of businesses and a multitude of industries. I will now pass along to Aaron to share these with you.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, I'm Aaron Barnes, and I was tasked with our industry-related data. Here you will see we received responses from 28 distinct industries, with our 3 biggest pools being in healthcare, education, and financial services. Our data also shows that the majority of our respondents come from for-profit businesses. With this level of diversity, we can help to eliminate any potential bias we could face if we were to target just one single industry. From there, we asked how our respondents considered their current positions, in which over 80% responded as full-time workers. I then broke down the 3 main responses by gender to see potential diversity in employment. This shows us how the respondents are employed and if this could influence later questions like a self-employed respondent, answering about the benefits they may have. Lastly, we looked into their total experience in their field, coupled with the time they may have been employed in their current position. The majority of our responses had 10 years or more experience. However, the time in their position had a majority of 1 to 5 years. This allows us to see if the respondents have given time for their position to be established and have enough experience in their field to make reasonable judgments in their response to our questions. With that, I will now hand it off to Parker to share compensation data from our survey.
Thank you, Aaron. Hello, my name is Parker Morrow. I was tasked with examining the various forms of compensation received by our respondents. Starting with salary, we see the majority of our respondents had salaries above the state median, but below the national median. Next, looking at seniority levels of their positions, we see that for both men and women, the highest number of our respondents were mid-level employees, and the fewest were in the C-suite. Examining the last promotion they received, we see the highest number of both our male and female respondents had never received a promotion. Taking a look at the last bonus our respondents received, the highest number of our female respondents had never received a bonus, while the highest number of our male respondents had received a bonus in the last 12 months. We asked what forms of insurance and family benefits our respondents received. We learned the vast majority of our respondents received some form of basic health insurance, with over 75% having received health, dental, and vision insurance. However, far fewer received family benefits of some sort. The majority received paid time off, but only a minority received family benefits apart from that. Thank you. I will now be handing our presentation over to Ms. Fatima MacArthur of our next team, who will closely examine the levels of education achieved by our respondents.
Good afternoon. My name is Fatima MacArthur. I will be sharing data collected on degree, non-degree personas, and gender. A degree persona is a respondent with an associate degree or higher. Non-degree persona is a respondent with a high school diploma, GED, technical, vocational school, or some college. Here you see a visualization created in Power BI. It shows females represent approximately 67% of the grand total of respondents, 48% of that being degreed females. 33% represents the male respondents' grand total, 22% of that being degreed males. Next, I'll hand it off to my colleague, Ian Griffith, who will discuss degree personas and age.
Thank you, Fatima. My name is Ian Griffin, and I was given the task of finding the percentage of respondents by their different degree types and personas. As you can see here, the respondents all have a diverse amount of different education levels, but I would like to focus strictly on 2 different subgroups: the 25 to 34-year-olds and the 18 to 24-year-olds in our age brackets. The 25 to 34-year-old age bracket had the highest amount of respondents, And the most interesting point being over 30% of our respondents with a degree had a master's degree. And none of the 18 to 24-year-old age bracket has a master's degree just yet. On the next slide, we will see another very interesting point. In the 55 to 64-year-old age bracket, just under 85% of our respondents have degrees. And the same can be seen in the 25 to 34-year-old respondents, where just under 75% of them have a degree. Thank you for listening, attending, and let me pass it off to my colleague, Jarrett Gunn.
Hello, my name is Jarrett Gunn. I was tasked with helping my team custom sort the salary ranges in Power BI and comparing the salaries of respondents with and without degrees. First, we will look at the overall salary for all respondents. And here we can see that the most common salary range for all ranges except for respondents 55 and older is $40,000 to $59,999 a year. As we break this view down into our main majority age range, you can see that the overall common salary for this age range is still $40,000 to $59,999. And a large amount of that is made up by respondents with degrees. Here we can see a side-by-side salary comparison of degree and non-degree respondents. Here we can see things like the most common salary range for respondents without a degree is $20,000 to $39,999 a year, while the most common salary range for respondents with a degree was $40,000 to $59,999 a year. Respondents without a degree were 14% more likely to make $19,999 a year or less, and respondents with a degree had a significantly higher chance of making $60,000 a year or more. What these points tell us is that respondents with a degree were more likely to make a higher salary than respondents without a degree. However, some respondents without degrees were in the higher salary ranges, meaning it is not impossible for respondents without a degree to be in higher salary ranges. More research will be needed to further examine. Now I'll pass it off to Joe Hill.
Hello, my name is Joe Hill, and I'll be presenting the race, income, education portion of our presentation. Using a tree map, I wanted to show the income pattern of the top 3 subgroups based on the response count, which are white, Black or African American, and Hispanic or Latino, so that we can see a visual of income across the subgroups. Please note that in the lighter blue, that salaries in the amount of $40,000 to $59,999 by far had the greatest number of responses. And in order to determine if there's a difference, I broke this pattern out further by each individual subgroup. All right, just a few things to point out here. First off, the $40,000 range is in the lighter blue area and is present in all 3 subgroups. The dark blue, the $60,000 range, is in the second position because it was the second highest response count for the white subgroup. And it came in third for Black or African American subgroup and tied for third in the Hispanic or Latino subgroup. Note the orange, which is the majority of the Hispanic subgroup who responded to our survey, is in the $20,000 salary range, which is third for the white subgroup, second for the Black or African American subgroup. And in order to dig a little bit deeper into the pattern, I looked at education through a degree filter. And this education breakdown by race shows only bachelor's and master's degree, and the salaries on the right show the percent of that subgroup in their salary range. We see similar pay at mid to lower level salaries, but we do start to see a slight gap at the higher income levels. Now I'd like to pass it off to my colleague, Mr. Jeff Rose.
Hello, my name is Jeff Rose. I was tasked with cleaning the gathered survey data for the education group and help with setting up group meetings via Zoom and Teams. I will be comparing promotions and years in current role. With this comparison, many questions do come to mind. I do want to highlight our overall survey data indicates most of the respondents have never been promoted and have been in their current role 1 to 5 years. We will come back to this observation right here. Like others, I have focused on the 3 most responding race or ethnicity subgroups and also considered their degree and non-degree personas. If you look at the dark blue across the bottom, this 53% white, 38% Black or African American, 26% Hispanic or Latino respondents have never been promoted. Our Hispanic subgroup sample was small, but worth noting that 48% of this subgroup have stated they have been promoted in the last 12 months. In considering what impacts promotion, I decided to look at the years in current role. Typically, you'd expect someone to not be promoted in their first year. If you look at the purple bar, you'll notice the majority of each subgroup, 47% of white, 51% of Black or African American, and 35% of Hispanic or Latino respondents have been in their current role for 1 to 5 years. Again, most respondents have been in their current role for that 1 to 5 year period. In an effort to compare promotion to years in role, I created a side-by-side comparison focusing on the never been promoted in blue, located left, and their current role for 1 to 5 years in purple to the right. Since most of our respondents have never been promoted and have been in the current role for 1 to 5 years, this led to a deeper breakdown of years in current role filtered by never been promoted. I found that 41% of white, 64% of Black or African American, and 17% of Hispanic or Latino respondents have never been promoted in the 1 to 5 years in current role range. Next, we have Joseph Chapman with Inequality Research.
Joseph, were you able to join us? If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was speaking. Didn't know I was muted. Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Chapman. I'm going to be presenting our findings on our inequality study. I want to look at our the promotions by experience, age, and gender. If you look at the, let's start at the bottom. If you look at this chart, it shows the respondents of experience as it flows from years of experience by age range. Starting at the left, less than a year of experience category, we found that 18 to 24-year-olds are here in the yellow band, show the majority. Most of our 25 to 34-year-olds have 1 to 10 years of experience, which is easy to see by the light purple bands in the middle of the flow. And as expected, the 35 to 44 and 45 to 54-year-old respondents represent most of the experience with 10 years or more, which is the purple band. As you heard Brian speak to earlier, that 25 to 34-year-olds make up the majority of our respondents. And if you look at the top chart, you'll note that 25 to 34-year-old age range makes up about 40% of all non-promoted respondents. And many have been promoted at least once, and in some cases, just more than once. I then looked at the age group when it comes down to experience by gender. We see that female respondents make up 60% of respondents with 10 years or more of experience, and over 70% of all respondents with 5 years or more of experience, which made me want to drill down into what promotions these experienced workers received by gender. I wanted to side-by-side look. Out of the 307 total female respondents, over 80% of them have actually received a promotion, while about 50% of male respondents have never been promoted, with women being the only respondents with more than one promotion in 5 years. Based on these results, we can see that the 25, 34-year-old age group respondents have either never been promoted or have just been promoted recently in the last 1 to 5 years. And now I'll turn it over to Bianca.
Thank you, Joseph. Good afternoon. My name is Bianca Jimenez, and I'll be sharing a glimpse of industry representation of gender. The top 7 industries with representation from both male, being in green, and female respondents, being in blue. Note that most of these industries are female dominant. As we all know, in the tech industry, even with a higher number of female responses, one industry was clearly dominated by male responses. Note the male, which is in green, in information technology. Since most of the respondents in the survey were females, the results show one story. Further research will be needed. Respondents who selected healthcare and pharmaceuticals as their industry, 76% were female and 22% were male. In this industry, 43% responded that their salary were in the 40,000 range. When focused on just female responses, however, 64% are in that range. When asked if they felt there was wage inequality by gender in this industry, 95% of the female respondents stated they agreed, while only 5% of the male responses also agreed. The question of why arises, and not just in this industry. Here's Violeta to give you more insight.
Hello, everyone. My name is Violeta Sanchez-Yanez, and I wanted to know if education level or years of experience affect promotion, and how do our respondents feel about the fairness of promotions in our company? We've heard a lot about promotions today, and I wanted to take a look at a different approach by dividing it into those never promoted or those promoted at least once. A majority of our respondents would be considered the highest qualified on paper. They have degrees and more than 10 years of experience, but I found it interesting that in both sets of graphs, those deemed highest qualified have almost the same percentage between those promoted and not promoted. In this next slide, each pie chart shows the respondents' current industry experience. They are separated by degreed on the left and non-degreed on the right. You will see 45% of both degree and non-degree holding respondents with 10 plus years of industry experience have been promoted at least once in their company. I think it's important to note that across these visuals, not a lot of dramatic differences between combining these three factors. We asked respondents, do you feel that promotion decisions are fair in your company? And most respondents with a degree and 10 plus years of experience either disagree that their wage is fair or they don't have an opinion about it. And the next slide, you'll see that the non-degree and degreed respondents with 10 plus years of experience are more likely to agree that promotions are fair if they have been promoted at least once. So based on this data, it seems that neither degree or experience in industry makes a huge difference in promotions, but nuances to consider when further evaluating how and why respondents feel about promotion fairness includes time with the company, the position level, and compensation. But even though they may not have had one promotion in the last 5 years, they may have gotten a raise. That concludes our presentation, so thank you for listening. I will now turn you over to our next team.
Thank you, Violeta. Hello, my name is Michelle Patrick. I wanted to take a look at whether there was inequality based on seniority levels. We asked our respondents to classify their current position, which ranged from entry level to C-suite executives. As you can see from the chart, mid-level seniority groups yields the highest number of responses. Of those responses, female respondents make up 34% of the subgroup, while male respondents equate to a little over 13%. With a high percentage of our respondents being either Black, white, Hispanic, or Latino, I wanted to view the salary ranges across these three subgroups. What we see is that white respondents equate to 75% of the grand total of our mid-level subgroup. Looking at the two largest blue columns, 44% of that total report in the 40,000 to 79,000 range, while only 12% of Black respondents report within the same salary range, as you can see in the purple. Let's take a look at how mid-level male respondents vary across these demographics. Here we see that white male respondents make up a little over 82% of the total for salary ranges, with 57% of those reporting between 60,000 to 150,000, while a mere 14% of our mid-Black male respondents report between 19,000 and 59,000 salary range. No mid-level Black males reported making 60 or even in the 100,000 or more pay range. 93% of white female mid-level respondents make up this subgroup, with 51% of those reporting within the 40,000 to 79,000 pay range. In contrast, only 24% of our Black female mid-level respondents reported, with a little over 16% of those falling within the same 40,000 to 79,000 pay scale. Based on this data from our respondents, we see that a wage gap does exist, but the reason as to why is yet to be determined. Thank you, and I will now pass it on to Wade to discuss his findings on age, gender, and race inequality personas.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm Wade Pond, and I'm here to take you into the home stretch by discussing personas based on beliefs about age, gender, and race. But first, full-time workers make up the overwhelming majority of our respondents, as seen in the left column. Of those, a little more than half have earned promotions in their current job, as seen in the top 3 sections of the full-time column. We asked our participants if they agreed with 3 statements. There's inequality in wage based on age, based on gender, or based on race. You can see that those who disagreed outnumbered those who agreed, as seen in the bottom bars of each demographic. Pay close attention, as we're going to go deeper into these statistics in a moment. In looking at each of the 3 statements, the biggest gap between respondents who agreed and disagreed is in the bottom rows for race. 40% agreed, while 60% disagreed. Overall, 452 respondents, some 56%, did not think there is inequality in wage based on any of those 3 categories. This is a cumulative total. Our participants were asked if they agree with this statement: there is inequality in wage based on race. Looking at the yellow sections atop both columns, we see a nearly 2-to-1 ratio between white respondents who disagree versus those who agree. But if you look at the 2 green sections at the bottom of the columns, we see the reverse with Black respondents, a 2-to-1 ratio between agree and disagree. Again, we see how our respondents felt about inequality in wage based on our 3 categories, as shown earlier. We also asked whether respondents agreed with this statement: I feel that my compensation is fair. We see that a huge majority agreed with that statement, shown in the blue bars, and only a few found that their compensation was not fair, shown in the green bars. The 2 main sentiments: typically, respondents felt there was no wage inequality based on demographics, and that they were being paid fairly. Let's look at how respondents felt about their job performance. We asked respondents whether they agreed with this statement: I feel my job performance is evaluated fairly. The overwhelming majority in blue felt that they received a fair job performance review. The 2 main sentiments: typically, respondents felt there was no wage inequality based on demographics and that their job performances were being evaluated fairly. I'll now turn it over to the 3rd inequality team, where Sam Sorrell will start by going deeper into the data.
Thanks, Wade. Hi, I'm Sam Sorrell. I will be discussing the inequality questions in relation to their demographics. With a total of 316 valid responses, we separated the age, gender, and race inequality questions to get the overall viewpoints. We have green representing agree, red disagree, and blue neither agree nor disagree. Almost half of our respondents disagreed that there was inequality in each category. When comparing the age inequality views by age group, we see a decreasing amount of agreement as we go up in age range, starting at approximately 40%, going down to 0% with the 65 and over grouping. The comparison of male and female respondents to the inequality by gender question shows that only about 1% more women believe there is a wage inequality based on gender as compared to other women, while male respondents disagreed by almost 58% in general, and more men disagreed than agree when compared to each other. We have another comparison of race inequality views separated by race ethnicity, with Black African American respondents representing about 22% of the respondents. They were the only group who had a majority agreement that there was race inequality. White and Hispanic subgroups disagreed by 50% or more that there is inequality in wage based on race. The survey had a majority of respondents from the state of Alabama, so we mapped the responses to the 3 inequality questions based on the respondent's county. I wanted to take a look at the level of agreement across counties and color each county based on the highest level of agreement, green being they agree as a county, red being they disagree. While the respondents saw inequality in all areas, the most concentration was agreement in gender inequality, noted by the green being the most primary color in the first map of this visual. Now I'll hand it over to Scott with more on the inequality questions.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, I'm Scott Lontine, and now we wanted to look at the 3 inequality questions that were covered in the previous section, but through the degree, non-degree personas. Overall, degree respondents disagreed to all 3 questions, and non-degree respondents disagreed with both age and race, but were even in regards to gender. Degree respondents were also strong in their sentiment levels of agreement, disagreement to the 3 questions. This led us to the question, does having a degree eliminate the belief of inequality based on age, gender, and race in the workplace, which we will delve into in the next slides. This is a combination of the 3 questions and the degree responses. Now looking at this chart, the sentiment levels are added to show strongly agree, disagree, shown in dark green and red, somewhat agree, disagree, and lighter green and red. The degree respondents answered in similar percentages to each of the 3 questions, with disagreement as the majority answer to the questions, and strongly disagree in the dark red as the main sentiment level for the center and right charts. Now this is the non-degree responses. The non-degree respondents answered with more of the lighter shades of agreement, disagreement than compared to the last slide, and were overall closer in their spreads, with gender in the center being even in responses. Next, we wanted to further break down the questions and look at specific demographics and how those respondents responded. For the question, is there wage inequality based on race? We wanted to look at the responses from the top 2 race or ethnicities that responded to the survey, Black or African American and white. We see that the degree persona responses for both subcategories on the left have much larger spreads between agreement and disagreement when compared to the non-degree on the right. Now this is a look at the previous chart with sentiment levels now displayed. In the chart on the left representing the degree respondents, we can see that when answering the question, is there wage inequality based on race, both degree responses had strongly agree, disagree as their majority sentiment level when compared to the chart on the right representing the non-degree responses. For the question, is there inequality based on gender? We wanted to look at the responses when separated by genders. First is the female response. The degreed females were almost equal in their agreement, disagreement, whereas the non-degree females had a 16% spread with more responses in the agreement category. By looking at the chart, we believe that the attainment of a degree may eliminate the gender bias in wage inequality that female respondents may experience. Next, we looked at the male responses to the question. Regardless of degree status, male respondents answered that they disagreed with the majority sentiment level of strongly disagree, shown in dark red that there is inequality based on gender. Degreed male respondents had a 2-to-1 spread in their disagreements, whereas non-degree male respondents had a 17% spread between a disagreement and agreement. This wage comparison survey gave us many insights into the current workforce beliefs and trends, but also the quest for more data to explore. On behalf of the data analytics cohort, we thank you for joining us today, and we will now take questions from the judges.
Thank you so much to our data class. If our judges have questions, please hop in and you can address the candidates yourself.
I guess I'll go ahead and get started. I love that.
Oh.
I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the questions. Just a few questions before we get into comments and such. Number one is for the last presentation. I'll go first. What was the seniority level of the women, particularly degreed women, that were surveyed? Because there might be a certain level up to which there is not as much inequality. And then once you get past a certain point, that's when you start hitting the inequalities and even glass ceilings, things like that. So that's question number one. The other question that I also had from just a general survey perspective, did you compare the survey sample population to census data to see if if the population distribution kind of matched up with the general population in those regions? And finally, I would love to have seen error bars or standard deviations or confidence intervals or something when you're presenting that data. So those are my questions. Thanks.
In regards to general demographics, yes, we did look at Department of Labor statistics and saw that it was roughly representative of what we would expect to see for that sort of breakdown.
Okay, good. What about the other distribution with regards to seniority of women, and also if we could get some representation of when I see a percentage bar, I would like to see, well, were there 8 respondents or 800 respondents? So if there's a way for us to either get a confidence interval or something like that, so we could there'd be more statistical power.
I think that could take that question. If I'm not mistaken, you're asking how many degree responses there were in the seniority levels?
Yes, I mean, did we have a sort of a breakdown in terms of when you look at the seniority of the women responding for the degreed women particularly, do we have a breakdown of what levels were they in their careers?
Yes, we do. I know my primary focus was on that mid-level, but for those who covered the education area, I know they would have a more distinctive answer for the actual percentage breakdown.
We'd have to get back to you on that specific data, but
okay.
We do have a concise and a breakdown of each individual degree level that we can get back to you on, but we currently do not have that to provide to you right now.
No problem. I mean, those are just general questions. I think you all did an outstanding job. So these are just general questions that I wanted to bring to your attention. Any of the other judges' questions?
An initial question is pie charts. Have y'all had a conversation about pie charts being the devil? Okay. That's all I want to know. And then, well, pie charts anyway.
I do have a question. I'd like to know if if you were going to follow up and do a next rung of questions, what would be 1 or 2 of the most important questions you think you'd want to ask next to try and dig into some root cause? And all teams can answer that if there's time.
Personally, I would like to find out how many people we had that were in the midst of a career change, especially within the middle age range.
I know as far as the promotions, the way we collected the years in current role, we were kind of limited as far as how deep we could dig and get more like concise or consistent results. So it was just the way that the data was collected as far as like what we're able to unpivot and pivot and try to put together to get to answer some of the questions that were posed when it came to promotions and years in current role.
Yeah, and when it comes to race, income, and education, I would like to explore further how many people are actually business owners and how many people actually work for another company.
Personally, similar to Claudia's point about mid-career changes, I'd like to see, for specifically the Alabama-based respondents, for those that did not have a high level of experience responded, if those people were Alabama-based for a while or if they had just moved into the state. That'd be some interesting data for me personally.
Myself, I would like to really look into the correlations between the industries individually, because looking at where the genders fall in those industries and how they could relate to the inequality that would be created from that. Because I think it was just before the meeting we had noticed that just in the responses from the IT sector alone, we had all men. So that would be one area I would really like to dive into and split apart, is to see where the inequality ties to the gender and the industry itself, to see what kind of relations those have.
And for me personally,
Was that Aaron? And
that was
then
Aaron.
Yes,
then
ma'am.
Sheldon? I think those are, I would love to see you guys follow through on those, because having run this data for my industry, those have been pretty meaningful. Everything that you all have just said has been, but those two in particular I've seen be a major player in this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then for me, actually, some things I would like to look at are things that we actually had brought up the other day during practice when we were asked questions, when we were talking about how, by the very nature of how this is distributed, we actually have a form of bias that we want to and need to possibly control for, in the sense that people who are able to take this survey must have an internet connection, must own an account on some form of social media in order to interact with us, and also must have the time and inclination to take a survey and feel comfortable sharing this information with us. Yeah. I don't know how we would necessarily control for that. That would take a lot more in-depth focus, but that's something that I think is worth actually thinking on. We had someone just ask, how many people did you survey in total? I believe we had approximately 315 valid responses. Am I correct in that number?
Yes.
Yes, 315 valid responses and over 400 total responses. But again, the valid responses had to include a authentic postal code, and they answered our 3 inequality questions. If they did not provide one of those pieces of information, then we did not consider that a valid response.
All right, I think we have time for one more judge question, if you have any final questions.
Well, I'm curious about, what are you trying to get at with a question about promotions? Because I think about my own experiences of like being in companies where in order to move up, you got to go somewhere else, or you got to wait for somebody who's been around forever to retire or something calamitous to happen. So what do you get from measuring promotions?
There are multiple ways to attempt to measure inequality, and there are multiple ways to possibly enact that form of inequality and bias when interacting with coworkers and people who are in your employ. So just asking what someone's salary is doesn't necessarily cover everything as a whole. So we're trying to see if perhaps someone might have been more or less likely to receive some form of promotion or other compensation, such as we asked with insurance and family and health benefits, based on their certain demographics. So that's one thing we were attempting to look at with that. Now, as to the answers in that, that's something that people who actually examined it for their team will be able to provide an answer for you for.
I know with the education team and looking at promotions, whether they had a degree or not, kind of made a big difference on our thoughts on the promotion level. You would think the more certifications you get, or the higher the education, whether it's a master's or PH, you get those credentials, of course you would think your pay would go up. So again, we'd have to just look deeper into those specifics and filter out some things to
I
get
think
back to.
that in my case, it was important to look at inequality within promotions because we didn't have a lot of insight into like the just inequality in itself is very opinion based. So we didn't have a lot of insight into like the privilege side of that. But what I was trying to look into was to see if the people that were most qualified on paper, if they were the ones that were most likely to be promoted and how they felt about if they were promoted. And the results basically came out the same. Basically, everyone that was promoted or it was elevated, they felt like everyone else around them didn't have any quality, even though the results showed otherwise.
Thank you to our judges. We will go ahead and wrap up questions for now. If you have any additional questions, you can send them to our panelists in the chat, and as they are able, they can respond and we can follow up with you following the demo day presentation today. Thank you so much to our judges. Let's give our data class a round of applause. That was an excellent job across the board, really interesting data. And I can see you guys got very familiar with that. And Robin, you are well loved. So thank you for
yes, thank you.
taking them through this process.
Yes, thank
All
you.
right. Now we are going to see our software development class projects. Our instructor for the software development class is Josh Hearn, and Josh has done a really excellent job coaching our developers that you'll hear from now. So with that, I'll pass it off to Josh to introduce the software development projects and teams.
Thanks, Haley. So I also would like to thank my teaching assistants, Jake Lovett and Garrett Harris. Our full stack web development candidates have worked really hard over the last 14 weeks to understand concepts in front end, back end, and database development. We're going to be presenting 5 independent projects from 5 separate teams. Each team has worked entirely separately from the other. To dive right in, we have our first team. Their application serves as an educational platform for developers. The app is called What Divs, and to tell you more about it is Katrina Callahan. Katrina?
Thank you, Josh. Hello, my name is Katrina Callahan. Beside me today are my teammates, Maddie, Brandy, Connor, and Caleb. Many web developers may know of or have personally experienced a situation like the one I found myself in when I first began searching for a development job. I felt confident that I had worked hard in my studies and could successfully, though perhaps not quickly, work my way through the dreaded whiteboard interview challenge. However, it wasn't until that first interview that I realized the language that I had learned to write was not one I could speak. Blindsided by phrases and terms that had never fully sunk in as I raced through the breakneck pace of my boot camp, I fumbled through that first interview, desperately trying to comprehend the questions I was asked and watched my confidence fade with each one. When I brought this humbling experience to my colleagues, we found that they too had been in similar situations.
As we looked into overcoming this hurdle, we found that learning coding terminology seems to come in 2 extremes: blogs and Word documents with long lists of confusing terms, and applications such as Quizlet and Cram with a broad scope, but not really coding focused. As we sought to find a more concise learning tool, we came up with the idea for What Divs. Through concentrated terms and definitions, we created a flashcard study application to teach fundamental coding terminology, therefore building the user's confidence to speak code in a professional environment and in interviews. Our team worked closely together throughout this project, and we often helped each other along the way. I'd like to take a moment to let the team introduce themselves and their specific focus.
Hi, I'm Maddie Conaway. I created the MySQL database architecture, the SQL queries used in the application, and some front-end features.
Hello, my name is Brandy English, and I was responsible for building the backend, and I use Express.js and Node.js to design it.
Hello, my name is Caleb Duke, and I contributed to front-end functionality, content, and styling.
My name is Connor Covington. I worked on building the front end and its functionality.
And once again, I'm Katrina Callahan. I also worked in the front-end functionality, the design, as well as connecting to the back-end. For this application, we chose a React.js format using TypeScript. We used MySQL Workbench to build the database, and we also used Node and Express, as Brandy mentioned, to build the backend. As you can see from our landing page, A new user to our application will be greeted with a clean and inviting design style that highlights the primary focus of subject study. Once a new user has created an account through our sign-in page, they will be able to view their user profile. From here, they could move directly into studying the cards or could navigate back to the home page.
When navigating to the study format, the user selects a category associated with their skill level. We will be demonstrating with the front-end category. As you can see, the cards are made to represent a physical flashcard appearance, where the user can flip to see the definition and continue through the remaining cards. When the user is ready, they may select a new subject. When they feel confident, they may move on to the quizzes to practice their knowledge.
Using a similar format as the flashcard to maintain consistency, the user will once again be able to select a category and will then be asked to choose the correct definition for the displayed term. Once they have completed a quiz, they can either choose to take another or can review the answers they've already supplied. From here, they can quickly assess their weaker areas and where they might need further study. If they would like, they can access our resource page, where they can be directed to credible sources that provide free and low-cost study materials.
If the user would like more information about our specific application, they may visit our About Us page. Here we have provided a feedback form where the user may submit their comments and concerns about their experience. As you can see, WhatDivs is currently in its first iteration as a functional application and is geared towards growth and sustainability. During future sprints, we intend to add capacity for other coding languages and will prioritize community involvement.
An important feature for future iterations of WhatDivs will be an interface that allows senior web developers to lend a hand to new coders through easy communication and by contributing to an evolving curriculum. The web dev landscape is ever-changing, and it is important that our content stay relevant within that landscape. Our mission is to teach and equip new web developers to confidently enter the workforce. We want you to feel confident talking the talk so that new employers know you can walk the walk. Thank you. While this does conclude our presentation, we'll be happy to answer questions at the end of the development class.
Awesome job, Katrina. So yeah, that one's a big favorite of mine because it's going to help me teach. So that's why I like that one. For our next team, their application sets out to give kids something to do during this time away from school. The app's name is MIM, and to tell more about that is Jillian Turman. Jillian.
Thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jillian Turman, and I'm a part of a software development group consisting of Hunter Damble, Haley Gamber, Chase Graffio, and myself. Together, we have built a web application we call MIM, which is short for Mimir, who is the Norse god of wisdom and knowledge. MIM is an educational application for the developing mind and their parent to help bridge the gap from in-person learning to a now fully remote environment due to COVID-19. We are so excited to share MIM with you all. I'd be honored to have my team introduce themselves and their contributions to our application. Firstly, I'd love to introduce to you Hunter Gamble.
Thanks, Jillian. So I worked on the front end, back end, and database side of our application. Next, I'd like to introduce Haley.
Thank you, Hunter. Hi, my name is Haley Damber, and I worked on the front end styling throughout, and I also built the geography component using primarily React Bootstrap. I would now like to introduce Chase.
Hi, my name is Chase Graffio. I primarily worked on the front end, getting our dictionary API connected to the words and animal components, along with our math component. I'd like to pass it back to Jillian now.
And once again, my name is Jillian Turman, and I was responsible for API research and front-end components using React and Bootstrap. As I mentioned before, MIM is a virtual learning environment for the developing child. Here on our homepage, we have many modules for the child to choose to learn from. All of our curriculum has been specifically tailored to young children. Our original idea for the application was to provide children with reading practice. However, from building our ABC component, which includes interactive flashcards of each letter in the alphabet, our words component, which displays word definitions accompanied by visual imagery, and our animal learning component, which is similar to our words by teaching children different animals through description and imagery, we decided that we wanted to expand and promote a more immersive and multifaceted learning environment. Let's take our math module, for instance. Our math module consists of interactive flashcards where the learner can solve small math problems and have their answer displayed as correct or incorrect, or just displayed in general if they're unable to solve. providing repetition as a strategy for successful learning. Next, we would love to showcase our geography module. Young explorers have the opportunity to learn about the 7 continents, the 50 states, state facts, as well as play an interactive puzzle game in this module. Once you click on a state, the learner can read about the state flag, the flower, the tree, and the bird. Moving on to our puzzle, the learner can have their go at unscrambling the puzzle by dragging and dropping pieces and revealing the United States of America in its entirety as an image. From there, we will be traveling to our stars module. From the beginning of time, our curiosity has led us to look up, and with a childlike wonder, we present to you our stars module. NASA has a lot of open resources with seemingly unending images of information. However, they're not always that easy to navigate through. In our stars module, a child and their parent can explore our database of beautiful astronomical images, click to expand, and then read about the stars. Upon our homepage, we provided the opportunity for the parent to kind of take a break and the learner to engage in learning via our different video-based components. In our storybook module, the learners are able to have classic tales read to them by popular celebrities, as well as follow along with the illustrated videos. Concluding each story, the moral of the story is explained, which gives a wholesome feel to the experience. As well as in our fun recipes module, learners can watch videos with fun and easy recipes to make with their parents. Included in the module are the recipes, instructions, and ingredients, so the learners are able to refer back to them when they find that perfect treat to make together. Our application gives children that small sense of normalcy during these pressing times with a familiar UX/UI design, similar to what they would be seeing in a classroom. We have also tested our application virtually with children and have been deemed kid approved. Quote, "I love it," end quote, by Chase's 3-year-old. This concludes our presentation of MIM. Thank you so much for listening.
Great job, guys. To bring up our third team, they have created a price aggregator based on an API from eBay for the purpose of donation. Their app is called Donator, and to tell you more about that is Tremaine Jones. Tremaine?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tremaine Jones, as mentioned before, and today we'd like to talk to you all about a tool that we feel will not only change the way in which we get rid of items we no longer want, but also the way in which we choose to save money. But before we get into that, I'd like to introduce myself a bit more, as well as with my team. Again, my name is Tremaine Jones. I worked on the front end with a primary focus on component functionality through the use of React, Bootstrap, and JavaScript, alongside working with the presentation as well as overall project design. Now I'll hand it over to my fellow teammate, Jeremy.
And hi there, my name is Jeremy Peters. I worked on the back end of the Donator application, primarily on the design and the deployment of the MySQL database and the security protocols. I also assisted with the Google Maps API implementation and also with the integration of that functionality into the application. Now I'll introduce Nick.
Hello, my name is Nick McLawn. I also worked on the back end using TypeScript, Node, and Express. I focused primarily on API functionality, integrating eBay and Google Maps into our web app, as well as pushing the API results into the database. Next up is next up is Finn.
Hi, my name is Finn, and I worked on the user interfaces and user experiences. And last but not least is Ryan.
Thank you. Hey guys, I'm Ryan. I helped out with the front end UI UX along with the overall project structure and design.
All right. So everyone has dealt with situations in which they've had cluttered spaces, or they have children, nieces, nephews, pets even, that you bought items for. Then they played with them maybe once or twice and then turned around and left you with all the junk. And then therefore adding to your collection of things you don't want. Then you get into the mood of, say, spring cleaning or New Year, New Us, and you're wanting to throw away a lot of those unwanted items, and then you end up throwing away things that you don't necessarily know if you can get money back for. And that's where Donator comes in. Donator is an app meant to help you find new homes for items you don't want, as well as find some cash back for the things that you bought and no longer need. So here's how it works. Users come into this app and the first thing they see is a screen prompting them to put in the make, model, and condition of whatever item they're wanting to get rid of or find a new home for. They also have the option to put in their name as well as their zip code to help pre-populate areas in which they could donate to later on within our web app. So upon entering those fields, completing those fields and clicking the calculate button, the user sees our details screen, which is compiled a list of all the items that they've previously passed into the app and all of the things, and as well as the fair market value for those items. Now, the fair market value is actually calculated by searching eBay's API, finding the top 5 most common items with the same specifications, and taking the sum of the average of all of those items to create the fair market value you see displayed on the cards. Now, say you get an item where you put it in incorrectly or it doesn't actually have a value after all, you have that option to go in and delete an item from it and continue to edit as you go along. And if you want to add one, you can click this add button, which will reroute you back to our first page and allow you to re-enter those same fields. Now, if your list looks mostly how you want it to, you can continue on through clicking the donate button, which then takes you to your choose donation location screen. And what this does is allow you to pick your donation location based on the zip code you entered from the first screen. We're going to go with 55th place. So after we've clicked what we wanted, we can hit the review donations button, and that leads us to our donation summary. And this provides you with another list of the items you've entered, as well as the fair market value that was calculated, and also the option to edit again, just in case you figure out I do have a bit more of sentimental attachment to those things I kind of don't really use. This also gives you the pre-populated area for the place that you picked in the previous screen, as well as an estimated value reclaimed option, which tells you what exactly you'll get back upon completing your donation after you've dropped it off or gotten it picked up by the particular location. Now, upon finding all this information and seeing everything that is the way you want it to be, you can hit that print your donation receipt button, and that actually sends out a PDF or email of this same exact donation summary to allow you to keep that for later when you do your taxes or when you want to just pass by some of that unnecessary paperwork that's usually associated with donating to particular locations. Now, in short, this app is a means to not only declutter your lives, but to also save money and get money back for things that you might not use anymore. So if you guys like free money, like me, then this is the perfect app that you want to use. So again, thank you all for listening to our presentation, and please don't hesitate to ask us questions later on in the Q&A section at the end of our program. Thank you all.
Great job, Tremaine. For our fourth team's project, they have set out to help people with creating home gardens. Their app is called Victory Garden, and I'm going to hand it over to Madeline.
My name is Madeline. Mike and I developed a web application called Victory Gardens that educates users on how to grow and care for common vegetables and herbs in their own backyard. Before we get started, I want to give my wonderful team a second to introduce themselves and share with you guys what they worked on. I'm going to pass the mic to Rachel now.
Hey, my name is Rachel Rumer. I worked on the front end, UI and UX. I created the layout and implemented other design choices using mainly React Bootstrap, as well as help with functionality such as making groups and other things like that. And I'm gonna pass it off to Aaron now. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Aaron Ellard. I worked on the database using SQL. I built a database of around 90 vegetables and 20 herbs with information such as sun needed, planting and harvesting months, as well as other information to grow a beautiful victory garden. I'm now going to pass it off to my partner, Cheyenne.
I'm Cheyenne Mangum. I worked on the back-end functionality of this project with TypeScript, Node, and Express. I also linked the database to the front end by programming API routes. I'm going to pass it now to Caesar.
Hello everyone, my name is Caesar Juarez. I was in charge of the authentication part of this program using node modules such as bcrypt, JSON Web Token, and Passport, as well as implementing API functionality to the front end and deploying with Heroku. Back to you, Madeline.
And like I said, my name is Madeline Spray, and I worked mainly on the front-end UI design. If you'd like to follow along with our app walkthrough, you can go to Victory Gardens. Actually, Caesar's going to drop the link in the chat, and you can display it on your preferred device. So the name Victory Garden stems from a term originated during World War II when our nation came together to limit the food shortage due to the war. By 1943, there were an estimated 20 million Victory Gardens in place, producing nearly 40% of all fruits and vegetables being grown in the U.S. The relevance in this mini history lesson really correlates with our current peculiar war we are fighting against COVID-19. Citizens are being forced to self-quarantine, inevitably causing shortages in many resources, including food. By learning how to grow your own food at home, you significantly reduce the risk of exposure in public places by limiting the need for a grocery trip, thus helping to flatten the curve. When guest users open the homepage, they'll be able to browse the app's variety of vegetables and herbs by using the Browse All drop-down located in the nav bar at the top left. Beside that is a Help Me Choose option that helps even beginner-level gardeners decide what they want to start off their very own Victory Garden with, by displaying lists of items from our master list separated by categories like vegetable shelf life, level of easiness for growing, and several recipes that include vegetables displayed in our app. To the right, the Herbs tab displays several lists of herbs separating them by uses for cooking and brewing tea. There's also a category specifically for aromatic herbs as well. The user can select any list item to view that specific veggie or herb information card once logged in. If a user guest wants to create an account, they can select the sign up option on the right. Here they will provide us with some information like their email and name to get started with their Victory Garden. If a user already has created an account, they can quickly log in by using the login dropdown located at the top. Users can now view full details on each information card regarding all vegetables and herbs available in our app by viewing the master list located again in the Browse All dropdown at the top. In addition to viewing full details, they now have the option to save everything they're interested in learning about or growing to their personal My Garden page. Here, users can view their saved vegetables as a reference to keep track of care routines or just to simply learn more about their favorite plants. Whenever a user is ready to delete an item from their garden, they can click on the trash icon located to the left to delete it. In the My Profile tab, users are able to view details about their profile and adjust their settings. They can also pick an avatar, change their password, and delete their account. In our latest feature, Community Gardens, users can interact with each other by creating posts to ask questions, give advice, or share progress with their fellow Victory Gardeners. They can also create interactive threads for specific topics and delete their posts if they like. With Earth Day being just 2 days ago, Victory Gardens is a great place to start celebrating Mother Earth while also helping to flatten the curve. We hope you enjoyed our presentation, and with our application Victory Gardens, we hope to provide a fact-based solution to one of the many problems brought on by COVID-19, and also help you enrich your life by helping you plant your seeds of victory. Thank you for your time.
Awesome job, guys. So to introduce our fifth and final team, they have created an application that adds interactivity and visualizes the concept of a mind map to share and collaborate on building ideas. To tell you more about that is Ryan Goodwin. Ryan?
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great afternoon today. Today, I'm going to walk you through being a district manager handling an issue within your company. So the first step you're going to have to take right now is you're going to have to start sending out emails. You're going to have to start scheduling meetings, and then spend the following days to weeks that you don't have trying to deliberate on how to solve this issue. But me and my team felt like this problem could be a lot easier solved through technology, so we developed Bounce. Bounce is a web application that lets you set up a survey that takes input and creates a visual representation of all the ideas and concepts that are being presented. My name is Ryan Goodwin. I'm really excited to show you this application today, and my team is going to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with my colleague, Lexi.
Hi, my name is Lexi Klock. My main contributions included the backend using Node, Express, and TypeScript. I also assisted with the function and style of the diagram, styling of the front end, and connecting the front end to the back end. Now let me introduce you to Franco.
Hello, my name is Franco, and for this web application, I worked on the front end section. I mainly worked on the early concept of the homepage and its features. I also worked on the styling and the functionality of the diagram that we have. Now I'm going to pass it up to William.
Hey, I'm William McKellar, and I worked on the creation and structure of the MySQL database, as well as help on the front end, including logo design. I'm going to pass it off to Jennifer now.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Flanoy, and I worked on and collaborated with Franco and Chris on the front end styling functions and user interface navigational bar with using React Bootstrap.
Okay, I am so excited to walk you through utilizing our app. So when you go to our homepage, you're just going to click on Form, and it's going to bring you to the form that you're going to fill out. You'll have an option to be able to put in your name, the idea type here so you can reference this later with the database, and then you can put in the main idea that you want for this mind map you're creating. So Keith here wants to know what to do to improve the workflow of the deliveries. We need to avoid complaints from customers and vendors as much as possible during this time. So when Keith hits submit, it's going to populate onto a page. Now, when you come back to, you'll have a whole web page that you're going to be able to send a link to invite people to collaborate. And it's going to start developing a flow chart that we call a mind map. Then what you do is you just click on whatever you want to respond to, double click on it. And it'll give you an option. You can put in your name and put in your input. So Lucas here feels like the first step to solving this issue is going to be to increase communication. And when he hits submit, it's going to appear right there on the screen. And for whatever reason, if Lucas decides to take out his input, he can just come back on here on it and hit delete, and that's gone. And just to give you an idea of what these look like once there's been a little bit more collaboration on it, the ideas span off from the original ones that you post, and you click on individual ones in order to expand on that with comments. So like this general manager here wanted some ideas they can implement to improve the experiences of our guests. You know, you have Tina here that felt like Taco Tuesday would be a good idea. You know, it's just a great way to give your employees a way to be able to put in suggestions and feel like they're being heard and being able to expand on each other's ideas. Another utilization you could have for this is if you were a teacher, you could use this to allow your students to have a space to collaborate on ideas if, like, say they're trying to come up with final project ideas. Another one would be able to just survey them about how they feel about the material you're going over in the class to give you an idea of what you might need to go back over. And then, of course, like you could use this to collaborate on just any sort of an idea. So if you're a writer and you're trying to collaborate with your other artists, it can be very hard when you're not hanging out with them in person. So even if they're on the other side of the country, you can share this link with them, you know, and share like your idea for a kid's cartoon series. And you can just literally watch your idea come to life on the page. So let's see. If you're looking for a way to increase your collaboration, solve problems in a timely manner, and organize ideas, I mean, we really think that Bounce could be an application for you. We have a couple more rollouts that we're going to have soon. We're really looking to make a voting feature to where you can upvote and downvote ideas. And we're going to have a feature where you can log in and save user data. Thank you for listening to our presentation, and we're excited to look forward to questions during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Great job, guys. So that concludes all of our team's projects. I'm now going to hand it back to Haley Kay. Haley?
Thank you, Josh. Great job for all the support. I'll open it up.
I'll jump in there first. Great job, everybody. Just want to say that. I've looked through all of your code, so I really want to focus not on questions about how you solve particular problems and ask you how you solve particular processes. So many of you had database backends or some type of backend, and then you had your user interface as well. How did the teams, and each team can answer this if you would like, how did the different segments of your team work together? How did the UI team work together with the database team to determine what we need in the UI versus what we can provide in the database? And more importantly, which drove which? Did your database design drive your UI, or did your UI drive your database design, or a little bit of both?
I can go ahead and start with that question for our team if you'd like. And that is a great question. We were all very equally involved with how we planned out this application and how we wanted it to flow. So from the beginning, we knew who was going to be in which areas, and we decided to talk about a generalized idea of how we wanted to do something, and then how would that work logistically all the way through. And then of course, applications will change as you move along. So as far as which drove which, we kind of had to alter both sides, how our data needed to flow, how our UI would need to respond to that. So as far as Brandy English was involved with the backend and worked very closely with Maddie Conway on that. So they were very strong in making sure that we were providing them with what they needed, and we let them know what we would need for the front end. So I'd be happy to let them talk some more on that if that answers your question, or if you'd like more information.
That's great. That's good. Any other teams have a different way that they work together, or had different issues that they came up with working together?
Yeah, Todd, great question. So since the beginning, what we did is that we had a sprint planning meeting, and we talked about what do we need our minimum viable product to look like. From there, what we did was we made a database, just regular tables, and we dropped that database into Heroku using something called ClearDB. From there on, anybody can access the database given that they have the right configurations, so the right password, schema, host name. And that's how we went off. As more implementations were done, we added more to the database.
Great.
I'm going to go ahead and ask a question here. I think that, as Todd mentioned, you guys all did an outstanding job. You know, user experiences are very important, not just from an adoption perspective, but from how effective your application is. If I had to ask every team, and you don't have to answer it right away, but if you could give it a thought, how is your user experience, the way you designed it, different from? Is what one aspect or two aspects are different from apps within that same space? So, you know, when you look at education apps for young children versus, you know, the Victory Gardens or Mind Maps or whatever, there are several apps that are out there that do something similar to this. What one aspect of your user experience stands out that's unique from the competition, and what exactly made you pick that particular way of approaching the user experience?
I think one thing that Team One really wanted to do with What Divs is condense the amount of information that a new web developer would be, you know, kind of coming against when they go and look up, you know, if they wanted something simple, what is a variable? What is something like that? And they go out onto these education websites. And one of the things that we always ran into is there's so much information that it's sometimes hard to get just something very clean, very simple. I need to be able to repeat through it. So we really wanted to create something that was very minimal and that could just be seen and run through quickly to remind yourself of very specific terms so that you'd be able to talk about that clearly and not get overwhelmed with a bunch of other things that you might not be looking for.
Excellent. Any other teams?
I wanted to hop in on this. I love this question. We focus very heavily on the flowchart component. Like that was the main component that drove the entire application. And we did everything we can to make things as customizable as possible, where you can sit and click and drag them out to look at it the way you want to. And especially a lot of like the future like app things that we wanted to utilize in it later, like when the upvotes, we want the bubbles to get bigger and all that. Like that really drove the whole component. And I wanted people to have as much fun playing with that because I want it to be like literally a mental map. And I love that you have Iron Man behind you because I kept thinking about how he has the computers with the screens and like the hologram stuff that he can just like move around. And I mean, and I hope to live to a future where we can have some technology like that. And I just wanted something that you could just play with. Yeah.
I would like to jump in on this one. So for our app, as a single father and my son being in speech therapy, we initially wanted to go with that route, but we thought there were so many other opportunities to add learning into it, but other educational values such as science and geography. But with the thought of speech, we wanted to focus mainly on simple things for a child to be able to grasp and learn, and that would draw their attention while also aiding that parents and being able to just flow through with it. For someone that's never taught before, that's been at a job like you probably have, and that's never been in a kindergarten situation, we figured a simple design that worked for the kids and the parents would be perfect.
Yeah, great job, everybody. I think it was all the presentations were good, ideas were good, well executed too.
So I've got another question, and then I have a challenge. The question for all of you is, where in your process, or I'll give you the option to say where in your process should security come into play when you're dealing with your apps. We've got a couple of different education apps, one that actually is geared towards children. Security is very important. I saw one app that had a login page. Security obviously is important there. And then I had one that allowed you to invite people to share and collaborate together. The challenge that I'll give you, and I don't want to pick on anybody, please don't think I'm doing that. I just want to give you a little bit of a challenge. The bounce team. I'll throw this out as you look at the security world around you, and more recently with everybody working at home, some of the problems that Zoom has had. One of the issues that Zoom had was with the idea of sharing a link to come together and collaborate in a meeting, and those links being accessible to people who really shouldn't be part of that meeting. So to everyone, where would security fit into your design? Where does it fit into your design? And specifically to the bounce team, how, as you move forward, would you, ways you can think of to prevent people from taking or guessing a link to a particular collaboration space that they really shouldn't have access to?
We definitely want to be able to give people a unique link to the collaboration page, and to be able to set up like a feature where you have to put in a password in order to access it. And then as the website builds up, it would be great to be able to make it where you have to actually form an account to be able to go in there and collaborate.
Great question, Todd. So the way that we handle our authentication part was that each user is generated a user token. If you're familiar with Passport, they use something called local and barrier strategies in order to do authentication. So each user is assigned, first of all, their password isn't hashed in our database. So we made up a hash and solve program that hashes everything. Secondly, when a token is generated, we use a program called bcrypt to generate a random hexadecimal string, and that contains a bunch of digits. So that is also used to encrypt the token. So each user is going to have individual tokens that are not going to make sense. But the way that we handle that information on our front end is that with the tokens, it's associated in the database. So each user can access their own information separately. Does that answer your question?
It does, Caesar. Thank you.
I would like to add something as well. As you're asking about security, of course, the #1 priority for our application being geared towards children would be that the children need to be protected and be secured. Implementing an authentication process is going to be one of our next rollouts for our application. And potentially the idea that the authentication comes from a more parental guided standpoint instead of the child-based standpoint, of course. So the parent can have the full access to the authentication in the terms of whenever the child is able to access and not able to access, just to try to keep it more streamlined as far as the child's safety goes, with just as much parental supervision as we can possibly provide.
And as far as our team goes, I'd love to give Maddie Conway a chance to answer that question. She is the one who handled a lot of our, well, she handled the entire database architecture. So I'm sure she would love to have a chance to answer that for you.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. What devs incorporate standard Windows authentication with a username and password. The user has the ability to enter their own username and password and email. These items are not available if you don't have Windows authentication to the database.
Great, thank you all.
Of our teams, and if any of the judges have a final question, you can raise your hand and I will call on you. We did have a couple questions come in from the audience about where they can find your apps. I believe the Victory Gardens team had deployed and had a demo available that someone could grab from the chat. But as far as I know, each of the other teams have not yet deployed. Is that the case? Anyone working on that now? All right. Well, thank you again to our judges. Those are some excellent questions, and I think good challenges for them to think of moving forward. With the next couple minutes, we'd like to give the judges the opportunity to break out to a separate Zoom call to deliberate on their winners. And we'll spend some time sharing some other things with the audience while y'all are gone. So thank you, judges. We'll see you back in a few minutes. When the winners are selected tonight, our winning teams, one from each group, will receive a LinkedIn premium account access for a year, which will give them access to LinkedIn Learning to continue honing their skills and preparing for the job, and also access to premium features for LinkedIn and during their job search. They will also get premium Innovate Birmingham swag. So we will reach out to the winners with opportunities to pick those up socially distant in the future. While the judges are deliberating, we want to share a video with you to show how our staff and students have been adjusting to the transition to remote work and learning. And while we're playing this video, we're also going to have a poll that you should see on your screen to vote for a People's Choice winner for each class. So please complete that poll while you're watching the video. Diva, could you turn your sound on? We can't hear the video.
I wasn't expecting you so soon. My name is Kelly Clark. I'm Director of Operations for Innovate Birmingham. Oh, this is a chai bourbon. Yeah, I said bourbon. We're in a global pandemic, so it doesn't matter. We're gonna be fine. Come on in. Our living room, the Clark household living room. Guy is one of my coworkers, my mini coworker. If I'm being completely honest with you, he's not a culture fit, and we're trying to figure out what to do with him. He just yells at people and eats all our snacks. So we're trying to figure out what to do with him, but there he is. This is a closet in our guest room that I have repurposed to be my office for the time being.
Yo, what's up? This is my office crib. Come on in. As you can see, got my desk here. Not optimal, but it works for what I need. I always got 2 notebooks. One for a checklist, make a box, check it off. Also, yellow notepad for frameworking. It's hot and crappy here because it's a sunroom. Me and my other offices will work here. Got my whiteboard. Hello. My name is Haley Medved, Director of Innovate Birmingham. This is our crib. Here, you'll see the finest desk that Craigslist has to offer. My laptop here, and I'll have lots of drawers to do all my pages. Number 1, equipment, coffee. I gotta make some more. I like to keep it fresh and lively and kind of keep my mood up, and all my plants that I brought from my office. Well, hey there. How's it going? My name is Diva Diaz. Yes, you heard that right. My name is Diva. Diva with an E, not an I. We are not that extra. I'm the marketing strategist at Innovate Birmingham. Come on in. This is where the magic happens. Where all the IB content comes to life. Editing videos, creating graphics, writing, organizing and planning, and of course, analyzing the data. Okay, fun fact by the way, Innovate Birmingham offers a free data analytics course. Link right here.
Love it. I'm a software development teaching assistant at Innovate Birmingham, and this is my crib. It may not look like much, but there's more here than meets the eye. Secretary Lisa. Hey, how's it going, Lisa? Oh, that's not safe. We can't shake hands right now.
So I'm out of Birmingham after spending pretty much a week in self-isolation. I'm back home at the farm, obviously hair and makeup, vanity, they're out the window at this point. So thankfully, the basement is partly finished. So this is my own little living room for the time being, for a week, complete with a TV and seating for all of my friends. Anybody else finding any irony in the fact that all of my snacks, which are absolutely not healthy ones, are wrapped up on the treadmill?
You said I promise. Oh, I love you, Rolling.
All right, well, I had my morning coffee. I'm all fueled up. Got to hang out with my sweet mom who made me coffee. Brought it outside for me. We stayed 6 feet apart. Don't worry, we are doing our part. Social distancing. My code works. I don't know how. I don't really know what I did. But oh my god, yay. I'm so smart. 1 eternity later. It's 7:15. I feel like today didn't really go my way between breaking my code for one of our labs and spending what felt like half the day trying to fix it.
But what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned about working remotely or this experience, this transition?
Finding a good balance between work and personal life, and also being able to stay on task at the same time. So, like Caesar and Ryan was saying, there's distractions. So, trying to make sure that you keep to the task at hand, and then also knowing when to cut it off, because sometimes I will find myself that 5 o'clock doesn't exist anymore, and I will just continue to work on something through all hours of the night when I shouldn't be.
All right, thank you, Diva. As you saw our social media there, you can follow us on those platforms, and when the groups that haven't yet deployed their apps do so, we'll share it on our social media. So that's one way to find it. I don't think our judges have yet returned, so I'll take a minute and go back to some of the questions that you all asked during the presentations and see if there's some time to answer. I forgot my video's off. Let me fix that. All right. One question that we were asked during the data questions, if groups that worked on the data could listen up here for this question. Stacia from Altech asked why so many respondents from the healthcare sector. Can you share again the responses from each of the sectors in your survey, and if you have any thoughts on why some sectors were the most common?
Give me a second to get to that slide while maybe Bianca can answer to that, or I can show other industries.
I'm throwing this on everyone. I'm prepared. Sorry.
Since the majority of the healthcare and pharmaceuticals responded was because that's one of the major fields here in Birmingham and in Alabama as a whole.
Excellent, thank you.
Or at least that's a good guess
for it anyway. We don't know that to be the case.
But considering that about 75% of our respondents were from Alabama, and of that, almost 75% were from Birmingham, that would be, I think, a fair assumption.
I also believe that the UAB organization in healthcare is one of our largest state employers.
Great. Back to the software development team. I know there was lots of interest across all the apps. One specific question for MIM. What made you decide on the curriculum that you included in the app? Did you build that into any API connections, or did you work with any educators? What was the process on identifying curriculum?
I actually did try to reach out to my son's speech therapist. Wasn't able to get a response back from her. But we just looked into curriculum for kindergartners, and we just kind of based it off that. Like I said, initially it was based off speech therapy and trying to focus on word building, learning your alphabet, your numbers. But we just kind of moved forward slowly and did a little research. So.
Great, thank you. As far as I can tell, our judges are not quite back yet. Diva, if you'll help me keep an eye on the attendees to see if they pop in there. While we're waiting, I want to take an opportunity to thank all of our team. We really have had what I would consider a relatively smooth transition to the working remote, really thanks to the leadership of the team that we have at Innovate Birmingham. That she couldn't be here today due to a training that conflicted, but Kelly Clark really navigated that whole transition wonderfully. You really, all kudos go to her for that. So thank you, Kelly, for managing that. Diva has been managing all of the tech for today's demo day. So thank you, Diva. And as you know, we have a much better social media presence than we may have had in past versions of Innovate Birmingham that we didn't have Diva. So thank you for all your work. Haley Hoppy is on the other call with the judges, but you saw her in the Cribs video. She's a recent add to our team and has been a really excellent partner in building out our engagement with partners as well as employers. And so any of the employers on the call today, these excellent candidates are available for hire. And so when you're ready to snatch them up, she can help you see their resume and arrange an interview. So please reach out to Haley Hoppy for that. Carlton has helped us keep time throughout this presentation and is our professional development lead for the course. So thank you, Carlton, for all you've done. Our instructors have done so much, not only in providing the instruction for this cohort and the ones before it, but really managing to move all curriculum and instruction online in the middle. So thank you, Rob and Josh, for doing that and for helping facilitate this webinar. The TAs are often in the background and don't get the highlights that they may deserve, but Taylor and Adrian in the data class and Jake and Garrett in the software class, thank you for all the support you provided the students and the coaching and the feedback, and for being my pretend judges yesterday. I appreciate it. Some people who are often behind the scenes and don't get recognized in opportunities like this, but none of us, and especially none of the students, would be here without, is Kayla, who does all of our admissions and screening for our program, and Brandy, who supports our students with supportive services, and Rachel, who is also a little bit of everything, power player whenever we need her. She's helping out with all of our operations. So thank you to all of our team for making that happen. And I think we had another question pop up. Oh no, just a thank you.
Ben Branch has asked, Ben Branch from iTax Solutions asked, how many people did we have on the call today?
It has fluctuated some. Haley Hoppy had messaged me earlier that between the live stream on Zoom and on Facebook Live, we've had over 200, I believe. So excellent turnout. Thank you. I believe our judges are joining us back now. Perfect.
We're here.
Excellent. You look so prepared, Kareem. Oh, that's your headshot. That's why.
Is that better?
Yeah, I was like, oh, you're sitting with Iron Man. How did that happen?
Well, like it's a mural, so it's easy. It's just right there.
It's very impressive. You were getting some shout outs in the chat about how everyone wanted that in there.
I can give them the artist's name. She is local.
All right, excellent. Yeah, put it in the chat and we can steal it when we have offices to go back to.
Yeah, Erin Hill. Yeah, I'll go ahead and put that in there.
I'm realizing I may have missed some questions in the chat. If anyone had others, you can drop them in the Q&A as well. Okay, we've got Kareem back. Let's see who else. Haley, we've got you back with us. Do you have our winners? Okay, I see that I'm getting some of these in. Let me see. All right. We have now a winner to announce for the data analytics group for the class that has collected their own data, cleaned it up, dug into it, and presented it all. All have done a wonderful job. The winners of our prizes today are the Inequality Group Team 2. Congratulations. Does anyone on the team want to say a few words?
Go, Michelle.
Oh my God, yay, I'm screaming. I just want to say thank you. This has been a pleasurable experience and of course with all these difficult times, but Robin, you are so loved, you are so appreciated. Innovate Birmingham, y'all are the best. This was a pleasure to work on, especially with such great team members. I love my cohort and thank y'all for listening to it.
Congratulations, Michelle and Wade, great job. We will get with you on getting your prizes from us in the future. All right.
Can I say congratulations to them?
Yes.
Congrats. Good job. You're all winners, but I am so tickled to see this. This is fantastic. Good job. Love all you guys.
Excellent. And for our software development class, we have our winning group is, drum roll, What Divs? Congratulations.
Thank you guys so much. That is wonderful. We're so excited. Everybody in this team worked so hard, and to watch it from 2 weeks go from an idea into this has really been outstanding. I'd love to let them say thank you if they can.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. I love all of y'all. It was a concerted effort by not only our team, but just throughout the whole boot camp. I can't tell all of y'all how thankful I am that y'all lifted me up and did your part to help me through it all. So thank you all so much.
Thank y'all. Oh, you
go
go,
ahead,
Connor.
Go
All
ahead,
right,
Brandy.
good. Thank y'all so much for selecting our team, and I just want to thank Innovate Birmingham staff for letting us have a wonderful program. Thank y'all.
And I'd also like to thank my teammates. We worked really hard together to make this work. It took a lot of effort. I'd like to thank my family, specifically my brother. He's been a huge mentor to me. He got me into this course, got me excited to join the course. And so I'd like to give him a big shout out.
Excellent. Congratulations. Great
I
job.
am going to make a quick note. The reason why the judges' deliberations took long is because this was a very tough decision. I think the teams did an outstanding job. We got a little background also from your instructors. I mean, the progress, major kudos to you. You guys have done a phenomenal job, and the scores were very close. If there's any consolation, you guys didn't.
Thank you so much to our judges. I do not envy the challenge that you had to select between these. For those of you who may not know a little context into these projects, these students came in 14 weeks ago with a whole variety of different backgrounds, but really looking to learn a new skill set, either in data or software development. And they spent those 14 weeks learning how to be developers and data analysts, and then they had the last 2 weeks to build what you saw today. So if that changes how impressed you are, I think it's just really amazing what they put together. The chats have been going so quickly, I haven't kept up. Diva, could you chime in and share the people's choice? I have not been able to see what you've sent to me.
Yeah. All right. So for people's choice, What Divs won from Facebook and our Zoom poll. So congrats, What Divs. And Education for Data won from the poll and Facebook combined. So congrats, you guys.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
Good job, Ed team.
Awesome, guys.
Great.
Can I get that premium LinkedIn too?
We'll get back to you on that. Thank you so much again to our judges and for everyone who is attending. Congratulations to the class. I want to take a few moments to say a few words to you all in Cohort 10. Those projects were really excellent, some of the best we've ever seen in this is now our 4th year of doing this work, and you've really impressed us, and not to mention all the additional challenges that you had to run into in this cohort. As excellent as your projects were, they don't even begin to reflect the magnitude of the work that you've put in over the last 14 weeks and all the new things you've learned and put into practice and then created this from scratch. And so I want to acknowledge and celebrate you for all that work that you've done and all the things that you haven't seen. So now it's my pleasure to welcome you as official graduates of Think Data Solutions Data Analytics Bootcamp and Covalent Software Development Bootcamp. Virtual applause, yay. It has been really wonderful to get to see and work with all of you, and now to welcome you into the community of hundreds of new tech talent in the community that are the Innovate Birmingham network, that many of whom are here as attendees on this virtual demo day, and our community of partners and employer partners as well. So welcome and thank you, and we really look forward to seeing what you do next. So I cannot wait till we get to see you all again in person and can celebrate with you then. But until then, we are wrapping up our demo day, and congratulations, Cohort 10. Wonderful job. Thank you all for coming.